The crew of the Challenger space shuttle might still be alive. Okay, so the crew of the Challenger space shuttle might be alive. On January 28th, 1986, NASA launched a mission into space that would change the public's opinion on space travel forever. But about 73 seconds into the flight, the space shuttle broke apart and blew up, and all 7 crew members tragically died. Or did they? Apparently there was numerous reports indicating that the shuttle was going to fail. However, the mission still carried on, as if the catastrophe was meant to happen. But people began digging. They found a teacher named Sharon McAuliffe, a CEO named Richard Scobie, and many other people resembling the crew popped up with the same name, age, and looks. And the last 2 crew members, named Ronald McNair and Ellison Onizuka, coincidentally had twins. So do you think this crew lives, or are they dead?
With 6 crew members and 57 passengers on board, Pan Am Flight 914 departed from New York City on July 2, 1955. The flight was supposed to arrive in Miami after a couple of hours, but it never did. The first few hours of the trip were uneventful, but after 3 hours, the ship's captain and co-pilot ceased communicating with air traffic control, and the flight vanished from radar screens for an unknown cause. Initial speculation pointed to a probable plane accident, because the primary route crossed the seas of the Atlantic Ocean, but several days of searching turned up nothing. Yet on March 9, 1985, it appeared unexpectedly and was undetectable by Caracas radar. The screaming passengers' faces were jammed against their windows and the ground handlers could see them. Before hurriedly turning back to the runway, the pilot either dropped a little calendar out the window or the plane took off and vanished.
The power of the system we live in is to make people believe things that are so ridiculous on the face of it, but they've been told it over and over and over since the day they were born that they can't question it anymore. Many of the things, like the sun is a good example. For someone to say the sun's a hell of a lot closer to us than 93 million miles, the average person's going to roll their eyes. This is the system protecting itself in the lie that we have been constructed into. A lot of people will go at this and say, well, why did we get lied to? Well, you can think of basic reasons, like to deny someone the knowledge of knowing where they exist. That deprives a human being of almost everything. To not even understand where you exist denies you really much ability to know where you're going to go, where you've come from, the things that are even possible in this place, because you don't even know what this place is.
You're saying that after a Big Bang, even with the law of thermodynamics called entropy, which we'll get to in a second, somehow our galaxy ended up being a perfectly flat plane? Not just is the solar system a flat plane, the entire Milky Way galaxy is a flat plane, where all the planets spin in the same direction. The odds of that are less than winning the Mega Lotto every single day for thousands of years. Now look at the moon. The moon is a perfect circle. The odds that that happened after Big Bang and just chaos of atoms and particles and dust and rocks colliding is 0. The odds are literally 0. There's no force, there's no wind, there's no erosion, there's no water, there's no force acting upon that moon that would make it a perfect sphere. The odds that the spin of the moon is exactly the same speed as it rotates around the Earth, again, are 0. If it was 1/4 of 1 mile per hour different, it would slowly turn. And there is 0 physics explanations with the model of gravity as we know it to explain why its axis rotation is exactly matching it rotate around us so that we only see one side. Light being shined upon a sphere does not make the luminescence the same all the way across. You can do a test with a tennis ball and a flashlight. It's impossible. It can't happen. It only happens on 2-dimensional objects. Seeing as you've only seen one side of the moon because of its miraculous rotation and its perfect circle, and the fact that the luminescence is the same across the whole thing, implies, I'm not stating this, it implies it's a 2-dimensional object, okay? The size and weight of the moon, according to science, it is impossible for it to be rotating around our Earth. The way the moon was created according to mainstream science is that an object the size of Mars hit Earth and created the moon. That's nonsense. We would have rings like Saturn. Where's all the dust? Where's all the debris? Where's everything? That all just disappeared? That makes no sense at all. Next up, the sun is 400 times bigger and miraculously 400 times farther away than the moon. And like two machine-cut quarters, they line up perfectly to make an eclipse. The odds of that are 1 in trillions times 1 in trillions times 1 in trillions. It's not possible. That the perfect circles in this world line up perfectly with something 400 times larger from a third factor, which is your fixed position on an Earth, that they claim is spinning 1,000 miles an hour. The shadow of the eclipse is 70 miles wide. There is no way to make a shadow smaller than the object. Of course, there are people that say umbra, because like goats, they've been trained to say that, but they cannot recreate an umbra on Earth. They only believe it because they've been indoctrinated to believe it since the time of their birth by people who want to remove their connection to God.
Science is a bit of a religion now. When you come into a scientific group and you challenge NASA, they're not going to talk to you. They're just going to call you a silly man and ignore everything you say. Well, you see, this is the programming of science doing this. Science should be dictating that anything we can question should be questioned, and yet this is not what we see.
The law of entropy is that matter and energy naturally go from order to chaos. If you break a glass, even after 1 billion years, the broken shards will not reform into the glass because objects have a tendency towards entropy, towards dissolving, towards breaking apart. So how do we have a human eyeball from a Big Bang? The Big Bang happens and it creates a never-ending waterfall, cascade, domino effect of atoms smashing against each other in an empty darkness for eternity. So given the law of entropy that things go from order to chaos, how on earth do we have the structure of a human eyeball in which we can see light and then recreate the light in our minds as images that represent our physical reality? It contradicts to a point of laughable mockery.
First thing a lot of people say is, where's the edge? Well, look at this map where Antarctica is a 360-degree ice barrier that holds the water in. These ice walls are real, and they stand 150 feet above the surface of the water. Then you need to understand that there is no independent access to Antarctica. Average people can only go there on a guided tour. It has no towns, no cities, and no permanent residences. What's past the 150-foot ice wall is anyone's guess. How far the ice extends, how it terminates, and what exists beyond it.
In Norwegian mythology, we have dwarves, beings of the underground associated with craftsmanship. Different races of dwarves were the ones that supplied the gods with weapons. In Egypt, we have references by the historian Herodotus of a colossal underground temple that contained 3,000 rooms full of paintings and hieroglyphs, and a massive labyrinth still lost and yet to be found. Many occult organizations, esoteric authors, and secret societies concur with these myths and legends of subterranean inhabitants who were the remnants of antediluvian civilizations which sought refuge in hollow caverns deep inside the earth, or may have originated below the surface, evolving there before coming above ground, rather than coming down from the trees, as is taught by modern academia.
It may be just a theory, which may sound ridiculous, but this was once taken very seriously by scientists and politicians. In 1818, John Cleese Sims, a captain of the US Army, made a memo to all governments of the world. I declare that the earth is hollow and habitable within, containing a number of solid concentric spheres, one within the other, and that it is open at the poles 12 or 16 degrees. I pledge my life in support of this truth, and I am ready to explore the hollow, if the world will support and aid me in the undertaking. In 1692, Edmund Halley, the discoverer of Halley's Comet, was the first to put forth the idea of the Earth consisting of a hollow shell. But over the years, the mainstream view took precedence, and the majority of evidence has always supported the Earth being solid, built of layers with molten lava rolling around at its centre. But this has never been completely proven. with 12.5 kilometers being the deepest humans have dug, and where locals to this hole report hearing the screams of dead souls. The truth is, we know more about the surface of our moon than we do about what lies on our deepest ocean bed on this planet.
Many people believe that there are either one or two openings to this inner world that exist somewhere in the North Pole and then in the Himalayas as well. The first person to scientifically speculate about a hollow Earth was Edmund Halley. He proposed this theory in 1692 as a way of explaining anomalous compass readings. Halley's theory was that the planet is a series of nested spherical shells spinning in different directions, all surrounding one central core. He also believed that the space between each shell may have had luminous atmospheres capable of supporting life. In 1818, a man named John Sims published a book declaring to the world that he too believed the Earth was hollow. But John Sims was one of the most famous hollow Earth theorists. His theories were so specific and detailed that the senator ended up filing a motion to fund his expedition to the center of the Earth.
What is Agartha? Agartha is said to be a legendary kingdom that is located on the inner surface of the Earth and is the center of the hollow Earth theory. John Cleves Sims Jr. was an American Army officer in 1818, and he proposed that the Earth was hollow. He claimed that the outer shell that we live on is only about 800 miles thick and that there are large openings at both the North and South Pole, which served as entrances to the four inner layers of the Earth. The weather was believed to be temperate and suitable for vegetation, animals, and human habitation. Sims was adamant about his theory. He had 500 copies of a pamphlet explaining his theory sent to politicians, scientists, and other learned individuals in America and Europe. In his pamphlet he said, "I declare that the Earth is hollow and habitable within, containing a number of solid concentric spheres one within the other, and that it is open at the poles 12 or 16 degrees. I pledge my life in support of this truth, and I am ready to explore the hollow if the world will support and aid me in the undertaking." Also, Perry Race, a 16th century cartographer and navigator, made a world map in 1513. The Perry Race map of 1513 appears to show Antarctica almost 300 years before it was discovered. Not only does it show Antarctica, but the continent is drawn as a landmass as it would have appeared before it was covered with its ice cap over 6,000 years ago. How did Perry Race make a map in 1513 that shows Antarctica when they tell us that it wasn't discovered until 1818? And what is really going on at the poles, especially in Antarctica?
The mind-blowing hidden meaning behind the snake in the Adam and Eve story. Now, in order to understand this, first I have to dissect the meaning of this symbol. And I'm sure we've all seen this before. It's a symbol for pretty much every medical association in the world. You'll always see it on the back of ambulances, and even the World Health Organization uses this symbol. Now, strangely enough, this symbol has been utilized all throughout our ancient past. You can see it in the rod of Asclepius, being held by ancient gods fighting off demons, and legit hundreds and hundreds of examples of this popping up all over our ancient history. Even all throughout the Christian religion, they use the snake and the staff symbol. Here's another example, and another one. Even Moses talks about the snake on the pole in the Bible. Now, what people don't know is this is actually a symbol for a Kundalini awakening. And the Kundalini is the sacred energy that rests dormant at the base of the spine, and it's activated by cultivating a peace within. When the Kundalini reaches your crown chakra, you become a living manifestation of the divine. This is why the awakened beings in ancient Egypt were depicted with a snake piercing their third eye. This was the symbol of a Kundalini awakening. Here you can see the pharaoh with the snake piercing the third eye. Now this brings me to the hidden meaning behind the snake in the Adam and Eve story. The snake is the representation of our Kundalini energy, and the apple is the lure or the temptation in life, or the external pleasures that distract us from the knowledge found within. This external gratification can also be called the devil. There is a tree of knowledge found within us all, and when we cut out the distractions of the exterior world or the temptations, aka the apple, we will connect to this tree of wisdom and move our Kundalini up these energy centers. This is the key to becoming the highest version of yourself and creating whatever life you desire. Peace and love.
I need you people to see these lies, to see how we've been lied to. All these cathedrals around the world, all over, built in different periods. Some claim to take 200, 500 years, some took 20, some took merely 10 years or less. And many people say, well, they had a lot of manpower, they had slaves, they had this and that. But that's not true, because in a lot of places they did have slaves. And first of all, why are they all built similar? And why do they all have these holes, these cymatic design pattern holes, if not for a purpose? Look at the spires on these towers. In the first photo, it looks like they're electrified, they're illuminated. And it's not the first time I've seen these type photos. But just look how absolutely massive these things are. Look how much it would take to create these. Like the St. Paul's Cathedral. I mean, it looks like they're built by giants. So a lot of people laugh at you when you say, well, giants existed, but my God, I mean, just look at these. It is unbelievable. Absolutely.